Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life number 131. It is the 15th of January, 2020. I got all that right. Fantastic.
Good job.
We're off to a good start.
Yeah.
We've got some panelists with us tonight, as always, from the mid-Washington, D.C. area. Mr. Casey Green joins us. How are you today, sir?
Doing pretty well. How are y'all doing?
Very good. Very good. Also joining us from the far left coast, upper left coast, I guess that would be, Mr. Patrick Connor joins us today. How are you today, sir?
Well, let's see. Hey Google, what's Tesla's stock price?
As of 7:01 p.m. Eastern Standard Time today, Tesla is trading at $523.50 a share on NASDAQ after hours, up 0.96%.
I'm doing great if that answers your question. Yep.
So disclosure, Patrick owns a few shares, obviously.
Yes, I do. Yep.
Oh man, yes, indeed. That's one of the stories today. Is the meteoric rise of the Tesla stock price, the hockey stick, if you will.
You might say it's on a rocket.
Yeah, you might say it's on a SpaceX rocket. Exactly.
Or it's going ludicrous.
Oh my goodness. Many reasons for the Elon dance that we saw a week and a half ago or 2 weeks ago.
Yep.
Absolutely. Well, our first story of the day goes to Casey, a public service announcement that was handed out by the Ontario Provincial Police in this report.
It sure was. It was on a little piece of paper. It had a fee attached to it. So what we've learned is this is still not full self-driving tech. It still requires at least a hand on the wheel. And if you're going extra legal speeds, in this case 84 miles an hour, you might not want to have both hands doing the floss going on, going past the police officer. So this individual was pulled over for speeding and reckless driving because they didn't have their hands on the wheel. 58-year-old driver stopped by the Burlington, Ontario Provincial Police in Oakville, Ontario. And, for their Arrive Alive campain. Don't drink it.
It's a good moral of the story is to, at least if you're going to speed, maybe keep a hand on the wheel.
Right.
That will reduce the charges.
Yeah, I wonder if he could have got away with doing one or the other, but not both. Yeah. If you're going to floss and drive, yeah, get a one-handed stick if you want to floss and drive.
Yeah, exactly. There you go. That would be a saving for him.
Say, don't floss and drive, folks.
I had a coworker suggest that maybe if he had a longer string and had both hands on the wheel doing this.
Yeah, he's wiggling from down by the bottom of the steering wheel. That's a lot of floss, Casey.
That's a lot of wasted floss.
I'm sure it's cheaper than the ticket that he got, though.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, that's correct. Absolutely. That is not a good thing to be doing at any point, but it's a good reminder for those of us that have full self-driving is, it might be fun to take your hands off the wheel and fold your arms or pretend you're not driving, but come on, this is not full self-driving yet. It's just a simulation. It does work. But the rules of the road are you need to be in charge of your car. And if a policeman sees you with your hands doing something else, that's reckless. And that's what you're going to be charged with.
You're not ready to take over immediately. And I in my tens of thousands of miles, almost 100,000 miles now with various versions of Tesla Autopilot, I've had the car throw control back to me well over 25 times. And it doesn't always warn you first. Sometimes it's like, hot potato, your turn.
Yep.
I did like the first two comments on the article. Gingivitis has no limits and kills more people than Tesla Autopilot. And then the reply to that was, that's why I'm a strict advocate for gum control.
That's funny.
Yeah. Uniform Mike.
Yeah, you're making a good point there, Mark. This is not full self-driving. And there's a real big difference between level 1, 2, and 3 and levels 4 and 5. Yeah. So we're not even at level 3 yet. So definitely pay attention. Don't assume the car can just do anything for you and you can take a nap. That's a recipe for death. Don't do it.
Yep. And
Absolutely.
the handoff can happen in less than 1 second. So
Yeah,
you
like
be touching.
and it's as Casey has mentioned, it's not always when you believe the handoff's going to happen. So it's you've got to be the one in charge, and you always have to be paying attention and ready to do that handover.
Yep.
Next story is a photograph that we picked up off of our Twitter feed, which is at the Tesla Life, if you're not already following us there. But what we'll do is we'll just share this shot. And this was an opportune moment taken. Now, I ask you guys, is there any more of a way to draw attention to a car than putting it at a supercharger and putting a tarp over it?
Correct.
Like that is like the prime thing that you'd say, well, something's going on here, because nobody puts a cover on their car while they're supercharging for 40 minutes. It just doesn't happen.
And if you see any of the videos of the Tesla employees doing it, you get like two people very quickly pulling out the cover. It just draws attention. Yeah.
So we have this attention grabber, this particular Model Y parked beside a Model X. So we got a good size comparison of the two vehicles. And just by, it's not scientific or anything, but you can tell that the Model Y is slightly shorter than the X. Not by a great amount. You've still got a pretty high roof line on that Model Y compared to the X. But I thought that was worth sharing some information, since there's been so much talk about the Model Y coming out shortly. Might be good to know. Which is, I don't know. I'm like, I understand that this draws attention, and maybe this is part of Tesla's plan, since they don't advertise. Do they kind of make a spectacle of these things to have people photograph it, to upload it, to talk about it? I'm not sure.
They would take a picture if it was uncovered.
That's true.
Yeah. But I think they would. Well, in some cases, you may not notice. You may not notice as much as one that's tarped.
Well, but, okay, I'll give you that.
Yeah, like you may just drive by because that's an X or a 3 you didn't really notice. Yeah. But in this particular case, it made the person stop and take the photo. But
there's a long tradition of spy shots in the auto industry. So I think
that's.
Oh yeah, definitely. Tesla's just one of many where this happens too. When something new is coming out, often the car companies have them in some weird camouflage wrap or something else to optically distort the lines.
Right, which Tesla has never done, as far as I know.
No, they haven't.
One time with the Model X.
Oh, did they?
Mm-hmm. When it was at the Alameda Proving Grounds.
Right. So yeah, just my point that all the auto manufacturers go through this.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the only difference with Tesla is they tend to throw them all over the country or the world when you can photograph them without their coverage. There's been people saying that this Model Y is an inch taller than the Model X, but like Mark said, it's shorter in length. So I'm wondering if the Fabergé egg is along for this world, because maximum plat is only confirmed, or at least on the initial launch, confirmed for the Model S.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. So yeah, I plan on getting another X at some point in the future.
Oh, it's a lovely car.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah. So, but I have a 2016 now, and I'm gonna wait until there's some sort of real drive to make me want a new one, and I'd like to I'll keep it at least 5 years.
Yeah, I have to keep mine for 5 years.
Are you past 5 now?
No, I'm at the end, the beginning of the second. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. So, want to remind everybody to give this video a thumbs up.
Absolutely, give us a thumbs up, and if you haven't subscribed already, please do. And that certainly helps our numbers, gets us in front of more eyeballs. So that would be very helpful if you can do so. Next story is one about GigaFactory 4 in Germany, just outside of Berlin. There was the land for the Gigafactory was officially sold to Tesla this past week. It was an unserviced lot, and that's why some people were a little bit upset about the lower price. But since there's no infrastructure yet, and Tesla's going to be required to build all the infrastructure, roads, sewers, water, drainage, they're going to have to flip that bill. So that's part of the reason that it was a lower amount than some of the authorities thought it should be. But along with that, of course, has now come controversy. So as you know, Tesla is building on a wooded lot, and they're going to have to cut down a number of trees in order to build the factory in a place that they wish it to be. And the cutting has begun, and no sooner had they begun, and all of a sudden, there's a bat problem. We've got a bat that they've looked at and believe that it's going to upset the bat's, I guess, mating or ability to live in the area and not be its habitat not be ruined. And they have to do some more environmental studies based on what they found with this bat, or not just one, several bats. So and they're finding that there's a few things that they have to go through to make sure that they're not going to be, I guess, limiting the bat's ability to live in that habitat going forward.
So currently the bats are hibernating, and as soon as they awake from hibernation, they start their mating season. So the easiest time to move them is when they're hibernating, and you can't do anything with them when they're in mating season. So they have to get permits to move the hibernating bats if they find any, like confirm that they're there. And if they can't get it done in time, then they wake up and start mating. And as soon as the bats are done, there's some birds that like to mate in here. So,
yeah. So we don't know what's going to happen, do we?
Well, so to beat the birds, they've got till the end of February. But the bats, they wake up around the beginning of February. So they've got a very short amount of time to get their permits to deal with it. And there were also some part-time protesters that showed up.
That's right. The first group of protesters have shown up. About 40 or 35 people showed up.
Yes, which is incredible because they're going to plant 4 times as many trees as they cut down. Oh, sorry, 3 times as many trees as they cut down. And if you've seen any of the pictures of this lot, it is a tree farm. These are immature trees on a tree farm. They're not. They're just pines. They're not anything special. And so if they plant some native trees elsewhere, then that's actually a win for biodiversity and all the good stuff there.
Yeah, and they were mentioning something about this diversity of trees, and some people are screaming that they should just plant what they've taken down as opposed to have a diversity. And there's all sorts of stuff going. And I don't know if it's right or wrong. It's obviously, you don't want to be wiping out species by putting a factory in, but there does have to be some give and take for the land to be used in the proper way. So hopefully they can get through some of this stuff and get to the point where it's not going to stop I guess the forward progress of building this plant.
Yeah, my understanding is that this was a World War II battlefield, and that's why the tree farm ended up here, because Germany didn't want it to be barren, so they just spread some cheap seeds out, and voila, farm.
So now they have to look for unexploded ordnance as well.
Yeah, they have to look for unexploded ordnance. Also, they have to move the ants. I'm not sure if they're an endangered ant, but they have to move the ants. And they have to put up reptile nets before the amphibians and snakes and lizards come through, or they'll have yet another situation on their hands. So this is definitely not going to run as quickly.
This is not China, is it?
Exactly. No. It's not going to move quickly as smoothly as China.
Well, hey, if the German people don't want them to build there, why don't they just shutter some of those diesel factories and let Tesla build there? They've already got factories. And long term, which is worse for the environment? Really? I mean,
yeah.
How many species are going to go extinct because of all the pollution that we're creating?
Maybe all of them.
Yeah, there's certainly a risk of that, for sure, along with us.
Right.
So,
I like to clean air. I'm going to be around for a while, hopefully. So
Exactly. On to our next story about fires in Norway. What's happening there, Casey?
So, parking garage catches fire, thousands of cars burn. There's a Tesla in there. It's got to be the batteries, right?
Obviously.
You'd be wrong.
Anything else? If you look at the news reports, Tesla's catching fire every day, all of them.
Yeah, only the local news agency did a correction. It was a diesel economy sedan, economy hatchback that actually started the fire, and because of the proximity of all the vehicles and the fact that they're all full of flammable liquids, once the first one burned and melted, there's now abundant fuel.
Exactly. When those tanks explode and spread the fire even further, that's just a recipe for disaster, isn't it?
Yeah, and even if they don't explode, say they just the hole melts in the bottom, and then now you've got a puddle of flammable fluid everywhere. And guess what? When you put a lot of flame externally to a battery car, it will still catch fire, just like the gas car does. And that's what happened.
Absolutely. So blamed on Tesla in the beginning. These hundreds of cars that burned at the Norway Airport has been proven to be just another diesel car fire.
Yep. So, yeah, like you said, hundreds at Norway. The thousands were somewhere in the UK. Same model of diesel car.
Wow.
What's that tell you?
That it's a budget car that should probably be recalled. Fix the fire and then let them do what they want.
Oh, man.
Brand new BMWs for the last year and a half have been catching fire, so don't know what to say. 12-volt system.
If there weren't a Tesla there, I wonder if this would have even made news.
No. Oh, not local. Not anything beyond the local news.
Right.
Hundreds of cars? I would.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. But
I
there
didn't
are
hear about the one until I heard about this.
There's 150,000 gas car fires in the U.S. every year, and how many of them make the news? Almost
those
none.
ones don't make the news. You're correct.
Right.
They have to be combined with something else, like some child getting trapped, or a rare mountain lion was inside somehow.
That one probably would make the news, yes.
On to our next story. Patrick's got one about pawn to own. What's that about?
That's pwn to own.
Oh, pwn to own.
Own to own, yes. Yeah. So being pwned is when someone gets you. They've got you. They've owned you. Except they can't type own. They mistype it. And so
I'm so excited they missed the letter.
Right. Yeah. So it's become a thing in internet culture to be pwned. And so pwn to own is a white hat hacker contest. And so if you are a company with some product that has possible security flaws in it, some Internet of Things device, some connected device, consumer electronics of any sort, you can take it to the Pwn to Own event, and you put up a prize. And if you have an interesting enough prize, then the hackers will try to hack it and try to get that prize. And so Tesla did this last year with the Model 3. And somebody did claim the prize. They found a flaw in the browser, and they were able to hack into the car. And so they, of course, as part of this contest, you tell them how you got in so they can fix that security flaw. So Tesla gave that team a car and $350,000. And now this year they're coming back with another car. And this time, the top prize, there's 3 tiers of prizes depending on how good you hack it. And you can get the car and up to $500,000. And if you actually find some additional hacks to go with that, you could get up to $700,000.
Wow.
So if you are a hacker, you probably already know about Pwn to Own. So yeah, there's lots of interesting stuff there. And if we're going to have connected cars like this, it only makes sense for companies to be taking their devices here and having them get hacked on and everything that every time they get hacked, then that's something that they know to fix, and it gets field hardened even better and hopefully less vulnerable.
Yep.
It's a great plan because you're taking it out, to outside of the gate of your company. And you're getting people to look at it that, do this on a regular basis and know the different flaws that exist in information and systems that they've dealt with in the past. So it's really crowdsourcing the ability to find these holes in the system, which is great for Tesla.
Exactly. Yep.
So especially it opens it up to perhaps non-owners. So they get a prize out of it. They get a car. The car that they hack gets fixed, and you'll have actual owners participate, but like anybody who's just there during the event, if they don't have the car, they can now try at it and then see what happens.
Yeah.
And if they get in, then everybody wins.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's so this is their second year doing this, Patrick?
For this one, yes. But although they've had bug bounties out for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
I watched an interview with a couple hackers several years ago. They were talking about how they found a vulnerability. They told Tesla about it, and Tesla did something weird and scary that no other company's ever done when they've done this. They said other companies send lawyers and cease and desist letters, but Tesla, they sent engineers. They wanted to know how he did it, and we showed them, and they were all excited about it, and they made a lot of changes. So it was really cool to see these hackers like, hey, Tesla's a company you want to actually hack because they'll work with you. It was kind of cool.
Yeah. So in the past, they were able to set the park brake. They were able to clone the key. They were able to. There was another web browser hack before where they signed you up to a poisoned Wi-Fi, and
right.
were able to do stuff to your browser there as well. So
yeah, there was another one where they could change the GPS location. They could spoof it.
Mm-hmm.
And yep. So all of these things are. This is what we've talked about. If the other auto companies don't get on the ball, then they're going to be way behind. And so this is a connected car feature. And it's certainly the way that all cars are going to go eventually, but how many of them are going to be years and years behind because they aren't there now and doing it now? Even with whatever car company you have, your top end should be a connected car with real-time traffic and a data service and firmware upgrades. It should just be part of what every car offers today, in at least their luxury line, and very few of them are.
Yeah, I mean, we as we saw, all the ones that Patrick and I just mentioned, they've all been fixed on Tesla. And we had an issue with Uconnect a couple of years ago where they could actually jerk your wheel or step on the brakes, and the fix, you had to bring it back into the store, and they had to plug in a USB stick, and it's incredible. I mean, now you can get the USB stick from the internet and plug it in yourself, but why do you even have to go out and touch the car?
Yeah. Just today, Tesla announced that their new wall connectors are going to be Wi-Fi enabled, and they'll be able to do firmware upgrades and remote service.
I didn't realize about the firmware updates, but I did notice that they were Wi-Fi instead of they used to do it over the one of the back connectors, like the car itself does when it talks to the station, which is
what a fantastic idea to be able to communicate with those and send us an update. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
Right. Yep.
Next story is a little bit of talk about, Tesla's obviously built this factory in China. It's up and running. They're selling cars now in the market. This article came out, mentioned to Teslarati, that just looked at the economics of China as a whole. And what they did is they basically compared the United States to China. And of course, it's not a completely fair comparison at this point, but there's some consistencies there. But what they did is they looked at the market penetration in the United States compared to what it would be like in China if that same penetration happened. And what was crazy is they came up with a number of like 640,000 cars per year. So everybody knows that China's a large market. That's all we hear on the news. It's either the biggest or about to be the biggest market in the world. And this just kind of sets the point home that if Tesla gets the kind of market share they currently have in the U.S., it's going to surpass their current U.S. sales by a lot. And this is something that obviously they've factored in to their plans as to why you build a plant, why you negotiate, why you get one set to go in China. But just that number is rather large to have that 640,000 a year. So, and that's of course outside of the U.S. The rest of the world still adding to their total. But man, what a big chunk of cars. So we'll have to see if China plays out in the same way that the U.S. plays out. I'm sure there's going to be some curves in this road. It's not going to be just straight because, of course, China is a different type of country. People spend their money in different ways. There's not as much freedom in China, so we don't know. We don't know. We'll see as time goes on. But I just thought that was a rather large number if they got the same type of penetration they do in the U.S.
Yeah, it's real interesting. I mean, that's an assumption, and we'll see whether or not it's a valid one. But to play that assumption out and look at the impacts is really interesting.
Something else that also came out was that the cars that are built in China are being built at a better profit margin than the U.S. cars.
Yep.
Yeah.
And as they add more and more local suppliers to the car, the profitability just continues to go up in China. Yeah. They, I believe, plan to have 70% of the parts localized to China for the building of these cars. And currently, I think they're only sitting in the low double digits at this point. So they are obviously pulling a large content from the U.S. in those battery packs that are currently being shipped. And there's a number of other parts that are shipped through the world to China to make these cars. But they're planning on upping that Chinese content, of course, for logistics and profitability that will go up as they're added.
Now, were they talking through suppliers, or were they talking on-site from
No,
scratch?
They're talking suppliers. Yeah.
Okay, that would have been cool, too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And Tesla, of course, as we've seen, will be interested to see do they build their own seat plant? Is that going to happen in China? Haven't heard about that. Heard about the batteries, but as we know, Tesla and Fremont has their own seat factory that makes nothing but seats for all the models. So we'll have to keep our eye on that if that's one of those things that are brought in-house in China as well.
Right. So. Yeah. There's a lot of people saying, "Oh, Tesla's not going to be profitable long term," but this is a perfect example of how they are taking the right steps to improve their margins. Battery costs are only going to continue to come down, and that's going to mean they're going to have better margin on these products going forward. And that's the biggest expense right there. And then if you just look at all the parts that I was looking at a company that makes rear view mirrors for all things, and they were getting 50% margin on their parts. Well, these are going into cars that are sold to GM and Ford that they're selling at razor thin margins. But this mirror company has a great business, and they were just in a spot where they didn't have a lot of competition. So Tesla's smart enough to look at, okay, where are we? What are the little, even the little things that we can do in house to remove this, or find a better supplier, or ramp up another supplier to compete with them? They're doing things right.
Yep, looking at all aspects to make those cars more profitable and add to the bottom line.
Right.
Next letter went out recently to Tesla reservation holders. And these would be reservation holders of the Semi. So Semi
how many you have on reservation, Mark? Just two?
Just two. Yeah,
okay.
Just two. So the letter was basically an update letter. It was reiterating what had been stated previously, that Tesla is going to go into a limited production of the semis somewhere in the second half of 2020. And this letter also went into how they've been road testing their current fleet of, I believe, 2 semis that we've seen, and how they have been testing and actually getting some valuable knowledge from the testing. And they believe that the candidate that's actually released of the Semi will be better than what was shown on stage back in 2017. I believe it was 2017. That sounds about right. It was 2 years ago, roughly.
Yeah.
They spoke about how it's going to be a limited run. They didn't indicate what a limited run is. So we've got probably in the area of, well, there's definitely hundreds of these vehicles that have been registered. I'm sorry, they've been
Reserved or
deposits put down, reserved. There are hundreds of them. I don't know what those runs are going to be like. They're not saying what it is. And what I'm interested to know is all the different companies that have signed up for them. Some have ordered, dozens. Others have ordered a single. Is there going to be some sort of a breakdown, or are they going to do it geographically, or are they going to try to spread it out as amongst everybody gets one type thing? It'd be interesting to know how they're actually going to disperse this limited run. Who's going to get them? Obviously, people that put down their money first are probably thinking they're at the head of the line. But
and they'll be wrong.
It will be interesting to see how they actually divvy this up.
Yeah, in the past, they've started with local deliveries so that if things go wrong, they can easily get it back and have the development team check it out and make improvements before they make another large run of them. So it would make sense that they would do something near Fremont to start with, or wherever that their design team is at. And the other thing is, I've heard they've made some changes to how it's going to be charged. So I'm very interested to see what gets rolled out for charging infrastructure for these as well.
Like what sort of changes?
That it's not the same one that they showed at the event with the 8 connectors. It's a different one, but we'll see. Yeah.
Well, they didn't want anybody taking pictures of it. That would explain that.
Right.
Yeah.
And we've seen the octopus that they put at supercharger sites, where multiple superchargers plug into extension cords that plug into the truck itself. And there hasn't been that much talk about. There is the mega charger that is supposed to be charging these trucks, and there is a company that is helping Tesla develop this mega charger, a third-party company, but no real talk about where's the first one going to go. I'm sure that would have something to do with who gets the trucks too. It would make sense if it's at their depot, or if it's PepsiCo or JB Hunt or one of these Loblaws that have purchased a number of vehicles, Walmart, that they would want it at a particular depot. Maybe that will happen first.
Yeah,
but and then of course the other thing is we thought that maybe Tesla would be ramping up a little bit more and maybe putting 10 or 15 under their own name and doing the Fremont to Nevada run. But that hasn't really happened as a regular thing as of yet. Maybe that's something they'll do as well as part of this initial build.
Yeah,
that would make sense.
And then with the charging, don't forget that the V3 chargers are mega chargers. Right now, one cabinet handles 4 stalls, but very easily one cabinet can handle 1 truck.
Right. Yeah. I don't think that's a coincidence.
I don't think so either.
Well, the structure would still have to change. There'd have to be special locations. They may use the same equipment.
Agreed. Yes.
Yeah, but now you're only building one cabinet.
You can't have a tractor trailer showing up at a supercharger.
No, not at all.
And people complaining about being iced. It's like, no, we're charging. It's okay.
All 12 stalls are taken because I'm blocking them to get the cords.
But when you think about it, Giga 2 only needs to make now 1 stack, and then the installers only have to pick but what place you're putting it. They only have to pick what cable goes on the end instead of.
Yeah. Be a lot easier. Yeah. Using the same equipment. Maybe, of course, the Buffalo plant that's producing V3 equipment only has to make, minor changes to put out something for the trucks. So, and I still think that, and this is not confirmed, this is complete speculation, but I still believe that Tesla now has the name that they could reach out to those travel plazas like Love's, Pilot, and others. And all they need to do is land one of them and say, yeah, we'll put in a bank of your chargers at selected ones. We'll work with you. And that would be it. They would be off and running.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, look, the Virginia V3 station is going to be a Wawa that has Tesla V3 and Electrify America, no gas.
Yeah,
Wow.
I mean, they're starting to get some pull here.
exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah. Next story is talking cars, of course. What else would be new? But we've now got news that Elon has posted an example on Twitter about his car talking to pedestrians. So this was posted on Twitter. We had a car driving by a group of pedestrians, and I think the phrase was something along the lines of stop looking and hop in, or something along that line. But Elon confirmed that, yeah, we're going to be able to program the car to either speak phrases that are put into it, or possibly maybe even our own voices that will be able to talk to pedestrians, and added to Sentry mode. So if someone is shaking the car or is coming up to it, you could pipe in some sort of noise like a police scanner or something along that line to maybe startle the person that's messing with your car. But this is a cool feature. Will it be required that you have the car noisemaker so it can use that particular speaker on the car? We don't know. We don't know if that's going to be part of it. But if that is a requirement, I could see people that don't have the pedestrian speaker wanting the pedestrian speaker to be added after the fact.
I've seen a few people looking
to
to install it already.
From people saying, "Oh, take it away! I want to pull the fuse. I don't want to hear that crazy noise." I think we'll have people lining up to have a retrofit done to their car.
Yeah.
That's funny.
But the interior speakers do go to 11. So for Sentry mode, oi, I'm asleep over here.
Yeah, although I'm worried this is going to encourage people to come up and shake the car until it knocks it, just so they can see it as an Easter egg. Check this out!
Yeah, but from what we've seen lately,
criminals still do not understand what's going on if the videos are to be believed. But
so if it says whoop whoop, you're being recorded.
Yeah,
that might make people understand.
Yeah, exactly.
There are 8 cameras recording you right now. It's not quite that many, but they don't know.
They don't know that. They don't know there's one camera. So
there's 8 watching. I mean, because that's how it knows to arm. So
that's true. Yeah.
Yeah. We saw recently this week there was some folks that would appear to be a casino at 2 a.m. The first guy couldn't figure out how to work the door handles, and it looked like that was it. And then his buddy came up and started kicking on the car after he couldn't dislodge the charging cable.
Yeah, they tried to unplug it, and then since it was locked in there, they started kicking at the charging cable. What assholes!
Ridiculous. Mm. And then the other gentleman with the knife. It blows my mind. The guy pulls out a knife and then runs it down the side of the car as he's walking by it. Like,
that one, yeah.
Zero respect for people's property. Just these people are horrible. Like, I just don't understand where that comes from.
Yeah.
Well, you're Canadian, and you could never understand. You don't have this American hate in your heart. It just has to come out sometime.
Oh man, I'm glad you guys live down there, and I'm not there.
I'm wondering how many of these incidents would have happened anyway, because we still see regular new cars get attacked. I'm curious how many of them are actually targeting Teslas, and how many of them are just because it's a new car and they'll never have one in their life, or whatever the problem is.
We've spoken about this many times previously. Is that just because all these cars have cameras, we're just maybe picking up what has always been there. It's just that it's never been reported. It doesn't get reported because there's no evidence. So it's a good point. I think that is definitely part of this. But I guess without other cars recording this kind of stuff, we'll never know.
Yeah, I saw last night, a video of, it wasn't a Tesla cam, so I don't know if it was a Tesla involved or not, but a Mustang was riding the left median and clipped this guy's mirror, and then the guy chased him down for a bit.
Go flying.
Yeah.
Slapped it off.
But you could see his license plate clearly at that point, so then I guess the guy broke off the chase, and you wouldn't have seen that if he hadn't had a dash cam.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. Absolutely. Our next story is a bit of a poll that we ran on our Twitter feed, again, at the Tesla Life, if you're not already following us on Twitter. And what we've got here is we decided to ask, will the Autopilot feature complete, which is what Elon had indicated it's known as, be released to early access owners before the end of Q1 of 2020? Because, of course, his self-imposed deadline previously was the end of 2019, which is passed, obviously. So we're just asking people, do they believe that the people will start to receive this feature complete, as Elon had indicated? And of course, the feature complete isn't that everything is up and running and you have full autopilot. The feature complete basically was that it was bridging the gap between highway driving and local driving, so that you could basically leave home and go to work with minimal or no interaction with the autopilot. So you'd still be watching, you'd still be in full control of the car. It's just that Tesla would be able to navigate the surface streets, the stop signs, the traffic lights, all the way up, of course, to highway driving, which is already covered, and then off ramps and right into parking lots. So this is what he was talking about that. And about 62% of people don't believe that Q1 is a viable target. And that's what I wanted to put to the two of you. What are your thoughts on when this feature will be available?
Wait, Elon said soon, without any idea of a date attached to that. And also, how would we know? Because if they're following the early access program correctly, they're under NDA.
Okay, that's an easy one. That's an easy
everything
one,
leaks.
because everybody under the NDA, a good amount of them would be happily tweeting their faces off if they've got it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. NDA just means set up a fake account on Reddit and then post it. It's not under your real name. That's all that means.
They get in the car and they forget that they have it, and their buddy that they were taking home for the day from work notices, and the car takes them to the first guy's house, and whoops.
So you said Musk said soon, and I want to give a shout out to Trent, the guy that asked him. He's a really great Tesla analyst. Whose stuff I read, and so he actually got a reply from Musk. So well done, Trent.
I'm still waiting for a reply from Musk. All I ever get is I can talk with his mom.
Yeah, I was retweeted by Musk once after one of their one of their stock analyst meetings. I posted here's a 4-second summary of the meeting. And it was a clip from the Lego movie with the uni saying numbers, business. And he
Mr. Business.
Yeah.
Oh man. I need to read her book too.
I've got a bit of a public service announcement as well. Here in Southern Ontario, recently, just this past weekend, we had an ice storm roll through, and a lot of the 401 corridor got coated in ice overnight. And there was a number of people that, of course, don't have garages. Their cars are parked outside. And, of course, you're going to have cars that now have a charger plug frozen to the car under a sheet of ice. And, of course, you can start the car up and precondition it and let it melt all the ice off, and that does work well. But we had someone on our Twitter feed post a solution, a cheap and easy solution, if you know that an ice storm is coming, and we thought we would just share that with you guys here. There we go. So what we've got is, if you don't recognize this, this is basically a knee pad from a dollar store that they've cut a hole out to insert the plug or the charger in. And it covers the port. And of course, if ice covers this all, you would still be able to unplug your car. And we wanted to certainly reach out to, it was Massimo, who had indicated that this is what he does. And actually, he used to have a Chevy Volt and indicated that he just used the same plug. So his same knee pad still works. But it's a great and easy solution, and it costs you next to nothing, just like $1 for the knee pad.
So it's universally compatible. That's
and
nice.
it works on all EVs.
And then Trevor from Model 3 Owners, he suggested you can do a plastic bag around the flap. That way the arm and the flap don't get if you have like a freezing rain coming, they don't get iced.
Exactly. So that's another way to handle it. So you just have to kind of know what's coming to put those measures in place. Or if you're smart, you just use the knee pad every night to plug it in, and then whatever happens at night, and you're good in the morning. So those options do exist.
Or if you forgot that and it did get iced over, well, just an hour or so before you need your car, crank up the heat and it'll melt.
And just let it go. Yeah.
Also, they have a product that you can get for a hose that the spigot. You don't see those kind of spigots up north, but you do see them in the south. But I think that the hardware store should still carry it. It's kind of like a styrofoam or another foam, and you can cut a hole in it for your charge cable, and then stick it over there, and it'll fit over the flap and over the charge port.
Very good. All great
tips.
Lots
of options. Yep.
All Tesla tips available. And if you have interest in more Tesla tips, you can search our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life and just search on hashtag Tesla tips. And we've got ones from the past that will come up, and you can check them out. Next story, we're going to jump to Casey and talk a little bit about the Model Y CARB data.
Yes. So the Model Y has been certified by CARB already. And surprise, surprise. The numbers come out to be, Tesla's been advertising that the Model Y should be around 280 miles of range, at least for the performance model. And the CARB data suggests 309 miles. So the only question I had was, does that include the reserve, or is this the driving miles? And if that's the case, then we're in for a little treat with the new vehicle, because it'll do more than Tesla has promised us, which is great, because they're finally learning to underpromise and overdeliver.
Yes.
Well, they did do that with one version of the Model 3. They derated it and explicitly asked for that number to be lowered.
The long-range rear-wheel drive.
Exactly. And then later, when they had data and could confirm that it was more capable, then there was a firmware patch that went out, and boom, you got more range. So they might do something like that to start out with what they promised, and then give them upside for a later upgrade.
Could be. And then with that, there's still some people waiting on their increase, but it looks like most people got theirs by now. So
the increase in what?
In range from 312 to 325.
Okay.
310 to 325. Some people, it was determined that there's actually a bulletin out that if you complain about the mileage not being where it is, if you're in a very narrow VIN range, they'll actually take a look at your modules and make sure that they haven't been improperly soldered or something.
Okay. That's interesting. A very narrow VIN range. So a manufacturing time, they must have it nailed down to, or the parts that were put into for that particular range.
That robot got fired.
That robot's now with Flufferbot, the bot unemployment line.
Yeah, he's out with Flufferbot. Yeah. Another thing of interest, and I don't know if this will be true with the Model Y, but of course the Model 3 had the submission into CARB, and 25 days later, the car was being sold to the public. So not saying that this is going to be the same with the Model Y, but hey, that's a good thing to look at, that it could possibly, be as short as 25 days before they start to roll this car out for sale.
Yeah, because they cannot sell the car in California without the certificate. So, like we said, earlier shows, we all suggested that it might be prior to the end of Q1. The only question was at what volume, and I had suggested that they are either going to do limited runs or start the slow ramp up. I don't think that anybody was on the side that they were going to be at full production.
No,
Right. Yeah. It makes sense to start slow.
Yeah.
But man, wouldn't it be great again with the under promise, over deliver to have these cars start to roll out in the first or beginning of quarter 2? That would be fantastic.
Even if it's just 10 cars.
Yeah, even if it's a small amount, just to maybe as Patrick has mentioned, sell them locally, allow people to use them for a little while, and then ramp up based on what happens with the first deliveries.
Yeah.
Right, or maybe just employees.
Exactly. Another great asset they could use to keep stuff internal for a while, as they did with the Model 3. So,
yeah, they did the Model 3 and Model 3 in China.
So that would be something to keep our eye on. That would be about a month from today. So February 15th, we'll see if things have ramped up from there. But of course, we are seeing them on the roads. The Ys being spotted all over the place in California and some further areas as well. But
there's one in Charlotte the other day.
I can hardly wait to see one in real life. I'm hoping the Toronto International Auto Show is in mid-February. I'm hoping they bring a Y. It'll be interesting to see if they do.
That'd be fun.
Our final story of the evening is from Inside EVs. And our old friend Bjorn Nyland from Norway took his car out to test out CampMode in the winter, which of course Norway has a lot of. And he was, of course, he wasn't really camping. He was just testing. He would test in certain areas, but his test temperature was hovering under the freezing mark. And what he found from timing in the car was that the car was burning about 2 kilowatt per hour in camp mode. And he just wanted to see, of course, his being a 75, that would give you the ability to certainly run a full day in camp mode with more. He didn't run it for 24 hours, but he did it a number of hour tests just so he could get that 2 kilowatt number to see what it was burning at a given time. So interesting information. You can check out his video through the Inside EVs link, which we will leave all the links in the notes for this YouTube. And you can click on that and take a look at his particular video. So
that seems higher than I would have expected, like twice as high.
Well, he is in Norway, and it's the middle of winter.
That's true.
He indicated that the temperature was just below freezing.
Yeah.
So it wasn't all that cold, but I guess...
yeah, you think that once the cabin was warmed up that it would be, 1 kilowatt. So using a kilowatt hour per hour.
He thought in the video that maybe you could reduce that 2 kilowatt by quite a bit if you had some insulation on the upper windows.
Oh.
He felt he was losing a lot of heat through the window.
Right.
The glass roof above him, he was thinking if you put some sort of insulation there, that would be very helpful to keep the heat in the car longer.
That would make sense.
I also suspect that in the summertime, when you do camp mode of the more temperate weather, it should drop considerably because the AC can run for a long time.
Correct. The AC will be much less taxing on the car. I would say if it's 2 kilowatts in the winter, I bet you that it would be less than half a kilowatt if you were doing the AC.
Yep.
But I'm sure some more testing will happen, and we'll get an actual number as people check this out.
All right, we need a viewer in Phoenix, Arizona, to do summer camp.
There you go.
And compare
yeah, exactly.
I think that would be equally dramatic.
When traveling through that area in, what was it, October when I went through there, that, man, it would get cold at night, but the day would heat right up. So you had the extreme on both ends. You were heating at night and you were cooling during the day.
It's always on. It's just a matter of what setting.
Exactly.
There's maybe 5 minutes you can have it off. If you're lucky.
Exactly. Well, that's great. That's our show for today. If you haven't already, please press that subscribe button. Give us a thumbs up at this point. That helps us out immensely. Feel free to follow us on Facebook, The Tesla Life #1, and of course on Twitter at The Tesla Life. And with that, Mr. Green, have you got anything to plug for tonight?
Yeah, we got a couple new videos for you up on the channel. That's youtube.com/KCGreen. That's KACEYGREEN.
Very good, very good. Mr. Connor, anything to tell us at the end of the show?
Yeah, I'm going to start with if you're going to buy a new Tesla, you should PM Mark and ask him for his referral code, and that will get you a free 1,000 supercharger miles, and he'll get the same. So there you go.
I appreciate that, sir, very much. Well, everyone, thanks very much for joining us, and please join us next week and find out what is going on in the Tesla life.
Thank you, Lee Moon.
Thanks, Lee, exactly, for the theme music. Appreciate it.